Parker, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Congratulations. Seems like a whirlwind. It's been like 2 years and 1 month since the first Smile, so I can imagine it just must be an absolute whirlwind for you.
Absolutely.
So to me, two of the hardest genres to nail in filmmaking, comedy and horror, you know, nailing that joke, but also nailing that scare or that jump scare. And what I love, what you've done this time around is you don't follow the typical template. You go against the grain of a jump scare. You don't give the audience time to prep. It just happens. And I think that's a nice little metaphor for life. Sometimes things just happen. What's your process and the logistics that go into crafting a scare, especially when it came to writing Smile 2?
Well, I think it starts on the page, absolutely, and I'm always my first audience member for my own films, and so I think about like what's going to scare me, what's going to catch me off guard. If I'm expecting it to go one way, how can I suddenly, swerve left, that sort of thing. And then we plan very carefully and go in and in production. I try to create some optionality for myself for the edit. It's the edit where the scare is really born. And working with my editor, Elliot Greenberg, we really work very hard to fine-tune these scares. And we try to think about, what are the rhythms that audiences have grown accustomed to with scares? And how can we upset that rhythm and do something that sort of, is not giving them the release when they expect it, or is sort of taking the scare in a different direction than they thought it might have been going in. And it's funny, you compared a scare to a joke, and I agree. And when you're in the edit, you become so close to it that it starts to lose it. You can't really see it anymore. It's like if you hear a joke 50 times, it's not funny anymore. It's the same thing with a scare. So we have to bring in other members of the post team and sit them down on the couch and and they're very nervous because they know why we brought them in the room and what we're about to do to them. But we sort of get reactions from other people and sort of dial in from there.
I love that, and it's also just so subjective. But again, it was great just having no prep. It just happened, and you could see this collective jump last night. It was like everyone's head just jumped. And my final question, we've only got 2 questions, but I'm going to nerd out over some effects stuff because I've had the pleasure of working with Mr. Alec Gillis a few years ago in LA, painting some alien blasters for him, which was a treat.
Amazing.
And he's given me clearance to ask this question. What I love is how hands-on you are with the practical effects. To me, practical will always be king. And there are some beautiful practical effects in this film. Was there a certain effect where on paper you're like, it's easy, this is going to be great, and then during the fabrication process, testing, R&D, you're like, this is going to be tricky, but in the end it turned out so well, and you were happy that you saw it through?
Yeah, well, I also love practical effects. I grew up on them. I'm obsessed with them. It's one of the reasons I wanted to make horror films. I always want to put as much in front of the camera as possible. I love working with Alec Gillis. I think he is such an incredibly talented legend.
Very funny too.
Very funny, yeah. He could be in front of the camera very easily, I think.
Yep.
But I think I'm not so naive as to ever think that practical effects are going to be easy on set. I know how challenging they can be. They're so fiddly and difficult, but when you get them right, they're so effective. And then that little bit of blend of that tiny little VFX kiss, that hybrid nature of it for some effects really helps bring it to life. But starting practical is so important. I will say that one of the practical effects in the film that provided more logistically challenging than we first anticipated. I won't say much about it other than the word thumbs. That was something that ended up being way trickier than we initially expected on paper.
Fantastic. Parker, congratulations. It's been great to see your journey, and obviously such a whirlwind thing going on with you, but I can't wait to see what you do next. Congratulations,
Thank you
my
so
friend.
much.
Thank you so much for your time.
Watch Smile 2 at home.